Hey, what's going on, Bama Nation? Welcome back to another edition of Crimson Tide Today with Zack Aitken. I've really enjoyed seeing the traction that the show has been getting, so thank you again for your continued support. For all the latest updates on the show, be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram at ZAitken7. So I think it's time that I do a segment on the elephant in the room, no pun intended. It's the position battle that everyone wants to talk about. It's the most important position on the field. Who's going to be Alabama's kicker in 2026? Will it be Connor Talty or the transfer Lorcan Quinn? I'm just kidding, guys. I know the quarterback competition between Austin Mack and Keelan Russell is what everyone wants to hear about. So, being the Alabama quarterback, it's one of the most prestigious positions in the history of college football. Alabama's pedigree at the quarterback position, it's second to none. Difference makers like Harry Gilmer revolutionized the jump pass in the 1940s. Icons like Joe Namath and Kenny Stabler, they ushered in success in the early years of the Bryant era in the 1960s. And modern legends like A.J. McCarron, Tua Tagovailoa, and Bryce Young, they shattered records and they won championships. So the Austin Mack Keelan Russell conversation, it really intrigues me because I see both sides of the argument. Mack, he's got the upper hand with experience, and he's been in Kalen DeBoer's system for a few more years. However, this hasn't transitioned to game experience as he's never started a game in college. Mack, he is a physically imposing quarterback. He stands 6'6" and 230 pounds, and he has a very strong arm. You hear all the comparisons to having a rocket, an elite arm. Mack is that type of quarterback. He's able to deliver the ball to all three levels of the field and fit it into tight windows. And you can't put a price tag on experience. He is a redshirt junior, and he was originally with Washington during Kalen DeBoer's tenure with the Huskies when he followed him over to the University of Alabama back in 2024. He was a blue chip recruit. He was a four-star out of the state of California in his class, and Mack chose DeBoer's Huskies over Oregon, Arizona, and Cal Berkeley. But the Keelan Russell hype train, it's been riding high ever since he stepped foot on campus at the Capstone. Russell was originally a three-star recruit committed to SMU before Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama staff started evaluating him and offered him a scholarship in the spring of his junior year. He later had a massive summer. He rocketed up the recruiting boards after winning the Elite 11 quarterback competition, and then his senior year, he cemented himself as the top quarterback in his class. He threw for over 3,500 yards and had an incredible 52 touchdowns to only two interceptions. His stellar play earned him being Gatorade's National Player of the Year. And keep in mind, he was putting up those stats in the highest level of big-time football in the state of Texas. So just to keep everything for perspective. Russell, he ended up becoming the highest rated recruit that Alabama has ever signed, which is incredible to think of all the elite five-star recruits that Nick Saban signed during his tenure in Tuscaloosa. He has a dynamic skill set, he throws a very accurate ball, and he has a great running ability, which I feel like could really open up Alabama's offense in 2026. Keelan Russell, he put on a show during Alabama's spring game this past April. Over 9 drives, he threw for 240 yards, completing 21 of 33 passes, and had 4 touchdowns to 1 interception. And he was also able to add a rushing touchdown as well. I don't put too much stock in rushing stacks for a quarterback during the spring game. He was wearing the black no contact jersey, so just for perspective, I feel like we need to make that known. But Austin Mack, in comparison, he was dealing with a minor injury during the spring game, so it limited him to only having 5 drives in the game. And head coach Kalen DeBoer, he did say afterwards that Mack was dinged up, but he should be fine for fall camp as we're getting close to that. And here we are in July. So he ended up throwing 1 touchdown and 1 interception during the game, but clearly Russell was the star of the show in the 8A game. I don't want to put too much stock in a scrimmage, but Russell, he did make the most of his opportunity during spring ball. In my opinion, I feel like Kalen DeBoer should go with Keelan Russell as the quarterback since he is a redshirt freshman, and I just feel like he has more upside. I feel like his ceiling is a little higher, and he just will have more time to develop in Kalen DeBoer's program. I think his running ability is what's going to be the interesting dynamic that he can add to Ryan Grubb's play calling, especially if Alabama's offensive line struggles again in pass protection. Having a mobile quarterback, it's going to be absolutely critical. So I wanted to move on. ESPN recently put out an article where they ranked the top 10 coaches in college football. Their top 5 in order was Indiana's Kirk Cignetti, Georgia's Kirby Smart, Ohio State's Ryan Day, Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman, and Dan Lanning at Oregon rounded out the top 5. Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer, he was tied for 10th with coach Mario Cristobal of the Miami Hurricanes. I'm not going to lie, I laughed a little bit when I saw this list. I'm not disputing their top three. However, I would flip Sig and Kirby. I know Sig had the magical year with Indiana, with going all the way, kind of a Cinderella story feel. But I just feel like with Kirby's two national championships and the way he's been dominating college football for the past 10 years or so, I still feel like you got to give Kirby the nod. And I'm okay with Marcus Freeman at four as well. But this list has Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, Mike Elko, all ahead of Kalen DeBoer. And that just baffles me, to be honest with you. To keep it simple, DeBoer, he owned Dan Lanning while he was at Washington. He had a 3-0 record against him. And keep in mind, Oregon, he was at a program, Dan Lanning, he can print money with the resources that Oregon has with Nike, with NIL. And Kalen DeBoer was at Washington, and he still sunned them, going 3-0 in his meetings with that Oregon-Washington rivalry. There's just no way you can rank Dan Lanning ahead of Kalen DeBoer when their resumes are pretty similar. By the way, DeBoer, he has a slightly more impressive resume than Lanning, but we'll dive into that a little bit later. DeBoer, he also has success against Steve Sarkisian. He's 2-0 with the 2022 regular season game and a 2024 win in the college football playoff. He's won a conference championship in the past, but he's never made it to the big game. Advantage Kalen DeBoer. And then Lane Kiffin is laughable. Don't get me wrong. I'm forever grateful to Lane Kiffin coming to Alabama and helping revitalize that offense when he was the OC in 2014. But outside of a couple of Conference USA championships, he's never won a big game as a head coach. And then Mike Elko at Texas A&M ahead of DeBoer is wild too. Texas A&M, they had a great year last year. They made the college football playoff, but they ended up getting bounced at home by Miami. The score was 10-3. And I just don't think one solid season and an early postseason exit is enough for you to rank him as a better coach than Kalen DeBoer. To wrap this segment up, let me hit you with some knowledge, as White Goodman would say. DeBoer, he has a 20-6 record against ranked opponents. His career winning percentage is 77%, which is third all time since the AP poll began in 1936. DeBoer's teams are 10-5 outright as an underdog, and his winning percentage is the best by any coach whose team has been an underdog at least 10 times since 1978. He's won conference championships, he's won playoff games, and he's been to a national championship game. With his resume, he is easily a top 5 coach in college football. Moving on, let's talk a little bit of recruiting. Alabama really recently lost a commitment from 2027 linebacker Kenneth Simon II. Simon, he was committed to the Tide for about 6 weeks, so can you really say that he was committed to the Crimson Tide? Simon, he's also the son of Vol legend Kenneth Simon, who played for Tennessee from 2001 to 2005. Am I going to lose sleep over this kid? No, not really. Let's just look at the facts. The guy's a Vol legacy, and he's from Nashville, and he plays a position where Alabama has depth at linebacker. On top of that, he was committed to Alabama for 6, 7 weeks, so really questions what that word really means, being committed. And let's keep it real. We live in the NIL era. Tennessee probably offered him a low NIL deal, hoping Simon would take a hometown discount, so to speak. But he decided to commit to their arch rifle and call their bluff. Alabama GM Courtney Morgan, he's been crystal clear that they're not going to be overpaying for high school recruits in 2027, and he declined to participate in bidding wars for Simons' services. So rest easy, Tide fans, we're going to be fine. And then wrapping up today's show, we're going to do a player preview on star linebacker Rianze Pierre. Pierre is a rising junior, and he goes 6'3", 253 pounds. He was originally a consensus 4-star recruit in the 2022 cycle, and he chose Alabama over the schools such as Auburn, Florida, and Georgia. Pierre, he's of Alabama royalty. His cousin is former Bama All-American Courtney Upshaw. He was one of my favorite players growing up. He was, a stellar player on the legendary 2011 defense. Pierre, he returned to Tuscaloosa after passing on the opportunity to declare for the NFL draft this past April, and his stock was high. He had a strong closeout to the season. 7 of his 8 sacks came in the final 9 games, including 1.5 sacks against Indiana in the Rose Bowl. He also had 45 pressures, which is good for 6th most in the SEC, and 34 quarterback hurries, which is good for 5th in the SEC last year. The Eufaula native, he said he returned because he felt like he had some unfinished business. He wanted to tidy up some things that he felt he didn't do right and felt like he left some stuff out on the table. Defensive coordinator Kane Womack, he's discussed using Pierre in different ways this season. In addition to playing Wolf, which is the outside linebacker position in the 4-2-5, they've toyed with the idea of playing at bandit, at defensive end. That's the terminology in the 4-2-5, and it just shows your versatility. That's not only going to help his draft stock, but it's going to help Alabama get more players on the field. Guys like Justin Hill and Devin Tompkins. I'm excited for Pierre to see what he does in 2026. As a fourth-year player, his teammates are going to be looking to his veteran leadership on defense, and this is a guy that has all the tools to be an all-conference type of player, and he should be able to build off his 2025 production, and if so, he should be hearing his name early in 2027. Guys, thanks for watching the episode today of Crimson Tide Today. Did I miss a topic that you guys wanted covered? Drop it down in the comments, and we'll have it featured in a future episode. Until next time, roll Tide.